We have not talked about the trait of a sales manager. Sales leadership is so important. It is because if you are able to give that clarity to your sales team as to how they can win their deals, that will make a good organization.
The moment I start doing that targeted with these high-level people, these are like generally VPs and CTOs. Again, coming to top down, he said, our company used to always approach VPs and CTOs. These are the guys are real customer profile. And those are the real customers.
The sales is much more important than you think it is. It is the most important thing in a company.
Correct.
When you are trying to grow, because without sales, you got nothing.
Correct.
So you have to get that right. The sales guy, a good sales guy is worth his weight in gold, diamonds, whatever you want to do.
Hello, welcome to the Sales Algorithm. I'm Rengan Jayakrishnan, and I'm delighted to have you join us for the 6th episode of our podcast on Sales Algorithm, and where we explore the insights and journeys of successful founders, entrepreneurs, sales and GTM experts. Today we have a special panel discussion focused on my upcoming book, The Sales Algorithm. And joining me are two esteemed guests. Welcome Dr. Ashok Korwar, a distinguished management consultant, CEO, coach, and growth catalyst who has dedicated his career to helping companies scale from 5 million to 25 million range to their next growth orbit. Dr. Korwar brings over 4 decades of combined academic and industry expertise. He served as a professor at IIM Ahmedabad for 10 years, where he chaired the MBA program and coordinated numerous management development initiatives before transitioning to become the strategic advisor to chairman at Polaris Software Labs, where he guided a company to a remarkable growth from 25 million to 250 million over 7 years. And today, as an independent consultant and co-founder of the School of Design Thinking, Dr. Korwar specializes in strategic thinking, go-to-market strategies, and executive coaching, while also serving as an independent director for Adrenaline E-Systems Limited. His award-winning book, Creating Markets Across the Globe, earned the Escorts DMA Best Management Book Award in 1997. Welcome, Ram, a seasoned sales leader and entrepreneur with a wealth of experience building predictable and sustainable sales engines for fast-growing organizations. Ram began his career at Seagate Technology in strategic marketing before rising through the ranks of Persistent Systems to become the Vice President of Digital Solutions, where he enabled digital transformation journeys for CEOs and CXOs. Today, he serves as Managing Director at Nudge Logics, advising growth stage organizations on go-to-market strategies and building scalable revenue systems, while also founding SnoozeFit, India's first non-contact sleep disorder diagnostic company. Right, both Dr. Ashok and Ram are key contributors to the Second Orbit initiative launched by Dr. Anand Deshpande to help companies in the USD 10 to 25 million turnover range make the leap to the next phase. And that's one of the key things that they are doing today. Today, the topic of discussion is going to be my book on sales algorithm. Just to give you an overview, sales algorithm is written for two sets of audiences. One is a middle-level sales manager who kind of finds himself stuck in his career and who is plateaued and is looking for ways to reinvent and get into the next path in his career. And the other is the early stage startup founder who has not focused so much on sales and who is really more focused on the problem at hand. So that's the whole idea of the book. And in today's panel discussion that we're going to have, we'll just treat a few topics coming from this book, and I would like to take expert views from both of you. From that perspective, let me open up with the sales playbook. I've written in a book that the sales playbook is a very important thing in the planning and research stage when you are just launched a product as a startup. You would want to know what is the ideal customer profile. You would want to know who is the target customer, what is the target market, target industry, the total addressable market, and what kind of problem the product is solving. And also you would want to know what kind of value the product is bringing to the customer. So ideally, this would all be documented into this sales playbook, and you go about it. But the question is, although in theory this looks quite good, from a practical standpoint and from having this experience over years, I'll go first to you, Ram. What do you think? Is it practical to have a sales playbook, which is not just the PDF or the soft copy, but you use it on a day-to-day basis? What's your take on that?
No, absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt about the importance of a playbook. It is the starting point and the guiding light for any organization to articulate what their proposition is, not just for the customers that they plan to go after, but also for the sellers within the organization. So it is paramount and imperative that every organization visualizes their own playbook in the context of their business. I think the notion about a playbook has been talked about immensely in the industry. Everybody uses it. A few things which I've seen companies do well and some companies not do well is how do you implement a sales playbook?
Right.
I think that's where when the rubber meets the road, you start seeing some challenges. And one of the things which I advise salespeople is use the playbook to basically visualize your sales strategy. Okay, if you can't visualize, you can't realize.
Correct.
And that visualization is different for every salesperson within the same organization. So what do I mean by visualization, right? It's first of all, every sales manager, every sales individual carries a number.
Right.
So you have to be able to dissect that number in terms of what does it mean in terms of service offerings, in terms of the value of the service offerings, in terms of your ICPs, number of such deals that you need to basically,
To meet that.
to meet the target exactly. When is that deal going to fructify? So you should visualize timing. You need to visualize the quantum of those deals, whether you're going to be getting them from hunting, whether you're going to be getting them from farming. So you need to first visualize for your own self. If I have to meet a certain target, what does that playbook mean for me?
Right.
Because that playbook is generic for the organization.
Absolutely.
So you have to first internalize it for yourself and visualize what does it mean to me. So the first starting point is translate that into meaningful, tangible numbers in terms of number of deals, etc. So we talked about here. The second most important piece is, and I think even Ashok can add to this, is that you need to also visualize the entire communication and the sales process within a target ICP. So depending upon who you're going to be meeting, you need to start visualizing in terms of, what is it contextual to that person? If I'm selling to the head of sale, if I'm selling to the CI, what does it mean to him? So here's where you need to be able to understand not just the domain, you need to be able to understand the technology, you need to be able to articulate it in terms of how am I going to get a engaging conversation going? Because nobody wants to listen to a silly spiel.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
no buyer wants to listen to a sales spiel. What they want to listen to is this 20 minutes meeting adding value to me in terms of upskilling my own knowledge base?
Or is it solving a problem for me?
For me, when I tell salespeople, don't go there try to sell. If you have been able to add even a small incremental value in your customer's mind in terms of opening them up to something new which they didn't know, that will leave a longer standing impression as opposed to what you're going there to sell. You may not sell today, but they'll remember that conversation and say, what, I had a brilliant conversation with this fellow. This company seems to be knowledgeable and they seem to be able to relate and stand up to the kind of expectations that we have. So visualizing that entire communication in terms of whom am I meeting, what should I tell that person, how am I going to engage with him, how am I going to intrigue that fellow? And I think Ashok has got some very interesting comments about the sales traits which plays into this. What kind of salesperson traits do you actually need to be able to go and relate to the buyer?
No, I come to that later in traits itself.
Exactly.
But this is very interesting.
But they're all interlinked. Look, playbook is
So,
just a
so do you
starting point.
think even the sales cycle comes here? Meaning, you have to have, of course, you have a target, you have a timeline, right? For your own self, you have a timeline to meet the target. So you start breaking it down right from there. Even with the sales cycle, I mean, when I go to a CIO or a CEO, how much time do you have to, kind of make this sale and get this fructified? So that's
So visualizing is the key part. Every single conversation that you're planning to have, you need to visualize in terms of why am I going there?
yeah,
And you need to be prepared with plan A, plan B, because you might go there thinking I'm going to have 30 minutes and make a presentation. But all you might know, the meeting might overrun or the meeting might start late and he may give you 5 minutes.
correct,
And in that 5 minutes, you got to say the right thing.
absolutely. Elevator pitch.
Exactly. So you need to have plan A, plan B, plan C all ready so that when you get that moment, you are be able to say what is required to basically get that person's attention.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
visualizing all of that is very important.
So you finally do so much homework and structure the whole process of your sales in your mind before you start taking your first appointment with that
Absolutely.
person.
Absolutely.
That's what you.
Absolutely. Every single pursuit is like a net practice. You have to be prepared to basically face that yorker or that bouncer, in the unforeseen time. And it only comes through rehearsing. Good
Good
salespeople,
analyst.
good space people rehearse in their mind.
Absolutely.
It's not that you just go up and show up for results.
So I mean, can't agree more because been there, done that. So we have all these kind of experiences. Ashok, what would be your take on this sales playbook? Do you have?
I think there are two things that I want to say. One is, of course, I totally agree with what he just said, Ram just said about the need to rehearse. Because your meeting with the customer is actually a performance. And you would never dream of putting up a performance without rehearsing, right?
Right.
So one should rehearse because it's going to happen in real time. And unless you rehearse, you're not going to be able to do it. That's one aspect which I think is important. Most people don't do it. It needs to be done. You have to have someone pretending to be the customer sitting there. You have to start doing your pitch as if that customer is there. All that has to be done. Second thing I want to say, which again Ram alluded to, is that this whole thing is like a battle plan. You're going into a battle, you have a plan. That doesn't mean that it will happen. What happens could be something else altogether, right? So, but that doesn't mean you should go in without a battle plan. Because if you go in without a battle plan, defeat is assured. Whereas if you go in with a battle plan, at least you can tweak things when things go wrong. So you have to have a starting point.
Yeah.
And the sales playbook is a starting point. You should not be taken so seriously that I have to follow step 1, step 2, step 3, because that's not how the world unfolds. The world unfolds the way it unfolds. And you have to be capable of doing what is necessary at that point in time. In fact, one of the things that we talked about is there may come a time when you need to just ditch the sales book, playbook, and say, look, there's an example that I keep talking about where I had gone with a sales guy to meet the CIO or something, and eventually our goal was to meet the CEO, but we had planned to meet the CEO the next day. So we were sitting there, the CEO walked in. It was not in our plan to talk, to say anything to the CEO. We didn't know what to say to him, but we had to because he was there. So what were you going to do? You're going to say, no, I'll talk to you tomorrow. You can't do that. So all these things you may rehearse, but something will happen which you had not planned for, and you have to be able to deal with it. So that is some of the things that, just like any plan, a plan is only good for getting you ready for the battle. The plan is not the battle. In the battle, you have to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, but if there's no plan,
If there's
then
no
there's
plan,
nothing.
then
it's
you're
a
totally lost.
assured defeat kind of a
Assured
thing.
defeat, yes.
So I mean, plan for sure.
Correct.
But as you say, not need to go by the letter.
Right.
If there is not the case. Equally, when there is a case when the customer is already accepting, I mean, he's already on your side, then you don't need to go through the whole process of.
Don't keep selling to somebody who's already sold, right? Now that is important too.
Correct.
Is a great statement by General Eisenhower that I like to quote, which is, he says, plans are nothing. Planning is everything.
Okay.
Because it's when
implementing
you do,
the plan is what.
when you do the planning is when you visualize, as you say, what all could happen. If you haven't done that, you will fail.
Correct.
The plan itself will not happen the way you say. Something will happen which is different. And that is how the world works. So the idea that I'm going to do what my plan says, no, that doesn't happen. But having gone through the planning process, the process of creating a playbook, visualizing, all that has value. That is what will make you ready.
Yeah,
So don't take the plan itself too seriously.
correct.
Do the planning seriously.
And equally, I think every experience has got value. I mean, you do your first meeting
And you
with the
learn
sales
from
book.
that.
You learn from that, and whatever you want to bring back to this book and say this could also happen, this is also a situation that can happen, is equally, kind of learning for not only you but for others. And the other part of the sales playbook is kind of a knowledge base. I think of it as a knowledge base. For example, when you onboard new salespeople, this becomes a whole Bible for
It's a
them
great
to
training
really. It's a
document,
great
isn't it?
training book to start with. I mean, you don't need to do anything else. You have everything. You have the ideal customer profile, you have the target market, you have the value proposition, you have the pitch. Everything is there. Start from there and then take it step by step. As you said, each one has to internalize it from the perspective of how is it going to help me plan my thing.
But it also suggests that you have to keep updating it.
Absolutely.
You can't
Absolutely.
keep it and say, I'll come back to it next year.
Absolutely. And even with use cases, for example, a successful use of this and has got a customer, those use cases also have to be here. So unless that is there, you wouldn't know what all markets you're addressing, which all customer types you're addressing, and what all use cases. Everything has to be documented in this. So this is a growing document. I don't think it's something that
It has
is
to be a
fixed
live
and
document.
it is not something that you frame on the wall and keep. It's not something.
It has to be a living document.
It's a live document.
And you have to keep updating it, keep learning, and keep putting your learnings back in it.
Fantastic. I mean, that's the point. Keeping the learnings and putting it back in the book and making it even more richer with the experience. I think sales is all about experience, as we all know. I mean, sales is not a theoretical topic to teach. Sir, you have taught in the
absolutely.
institutions and you would agree.
I think we talked about this, that sales is not taught anywhere. They teach you marketing, but they don't teach you sales.
So it's more an experiential learning. I mean, what you experience is what you learn. So brilliant. So that's about the playbook. Now coming to another interesting topic, we touched about it a little bit in the playbook itself when we started. The top-down selling. I mean, I am an advocate of top-down selling. I mean, although I, kind of always think it's a case-by-case thing. You have to, depending upon your customer, you have to decide whether you want to go top-down or bottom-up or blended. I put a blended approach as well. So giving the context, I mean, one is, in my experience, whenever I have talked to these corporate middle-level sales managers, I have found that they lack the confidence to talk to the top level. And rightly so. I mean, it's not so easy. As we all know, as you said, when you start going there, you are rehearsing so much about what will happen, this and that. He said he met the CIO and then there comes a CEO along. You never plan for that. So these things are, if you're not used to it, it takes a huge effort and it's a kind of a inertia, a reluctance to go there. But equally, it is very important. Equally, it's very, very important. So what I say is, when you start engaging the top management, one, you must be clear that whatever challenge you are trying to solve with your product, it's really a high priority challenge for that company. And if that is so, then you can get audience from top management. If you are going to sell competitive products, you'll never get audience because you'll say, I'm not the guy for this and don't waste my time.
Go down for that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So this small time or window that you have with the top management, how do you use that? And how do you make a pitch perfect presentation? The point is, it's a window. If you have the pitch correctly, you make it. If you have a good product and a wrong pitch or not a compelling pitch, you still lose it, right? So it's a very, very tricky matter. Again, some inputs from you, Ram, on this. What do you think? What kind of approach you take on this, or yeah.
So I'll give you my point of view on this. Okay, there's no right or wrong answer. I think
Obviously, yeah.
tops down versus middle up or bottoms up, both are important. All of them are important stakeholders within the organization. I'm going to answer your question in two parts. Okay, I'm going to answer your question assuming if you have an audience with the CEO. Look, when you're meeting the CEO, you don't have to, if you go there selling something to him, he's not the right.
It's not going
The
to help.
pitch is wrong.
Yeah.
When you're meeting the CEO, it is important that you basically try to achieve a meeting of minds where you're able to establish that we as an organization understand where you as a company are heading. And we believe that we have the tenacity, the technology, and the capability to basically match your expectations from the long run perspective.
Right.
You don't sell a transactional deal with a CEO. You are trying to basically establish that we are a company of credence and we are a company that can match your expectations. And we believe that there's some opportunities for us to establish, and we are already talking to your ground level people to discuss the details. But here I just want to talk about where we are heading an organization and explore
What
alignment.
value add
Exactly.
we can do.
Exactly. So the CEO communication is not about selling a transactional deal. It's about establishing a long-term mind share with it and giving him the confidence that we as an organization can match his expectation, because he's got a company to run and we are a service provider. We've got to be able to align with him.
Right.
Now going back to the early question about tops down versus bottoms up, right? Look, it all depends upon one, the product you're selling and the culture of the organization. Look, in many organizations, the middle management is quite empowered to take decisions.
Correct.
So as a salesperson, you need to do your homework and try to understand what is the culture of this organization.
Yes, that's true.
Are they a completely centralized organization where the power center lies with very few people?
That's true.
And everybody else are basically like, just there, seat warmers. Then you have to go to that guy who's going to make the call.
Absolutely.
But in most professionally run companies, you do find that there are people who are responsible to take decisions and they have the capability of taking decisions without having to always go up to seek approvals. So in those cases, it is not about selling up. It is about selling to them and making sure that you are providing them a proposition.
I mean, you have to sell to the right audience. That's what you want. But equally here, sometimes geography plays a role. For example, if we talk about a Indian run, promoter run business, a promoter run business vests all power with the promoter, right? And if you're talking about a high stakes or a high ticket investment or a software or a solution, obviously you have to go, either you go up there or you go directly there or whatever you choose. I mean, ideally speaking, my take is always find a champion somewhere. And this champion has to be in a proper level that he is able to influence both the board level as well as the user level both. So the champion, my learning from sales is that when you go to a big organization, the champion is doing the selling for you most of the time, because you don't meet the board at all times. You don't meet the CEO at all times. Maybe you have one meeting or two, but he has to answer a lot of questions. He has to do the internal communication. So if he has got a buy-in, he or she has got a buy-in into your, then obviously he's going to, kind of do the selling for you every time he's questioned about it. And he is kind of having the stakes in that. So that is one way. But equally, geography plays a big role. Indian companies, promoter-driven companies, behave in a different way. Whereas if we go to European companies, for example, my experiences with say Finnish companies, they are very different. They create a steering committee from different parts of the globe, one from Singapore, one from Finland, one from somewhere else. Say this committee will decide everything. This committee is vested with the power and the budget for anything that is to do with this kind of, implementations. And that's a one-stop shop for you. And the best way to do selling. There you don't really, it doesn't matter if it's a top or down, because one might be a manager somewhere, the other might be running the center somewhere. So it doesn't matter. And third, say a country like Japan. That's a very different culture altogether. So in Japan also, I don't think top down really works well. You have to really go to the user, go to the particular department that is using, who's going to benefit from your solution, convince them first. Even you try to go to the top, he will drive you down, saying that first take their buy-in and then come to me if need be. So it depends on cultures. For example, big companies like in India, Reliance or SR or Nayara, for example, they have a different perspective about everything. I mean, all you do, you need to have some amount of convincing to that level if you want to get things done. Whereas you rightly said, in very professionally run companies, which are, have vested powers in certain individuals, department heads, it's quite okay to just get their buy-in and get it going, because they have been vested with all the powers. They are very decentralized. So I think, as you rightly said, depends on the customer. Also, I think depends on geography. My experience. Anything you want to add, Ashok?
No, I
Or
agree, and it depends on how complex the organization is too. So, no, I totally agree with both of you. I think the fact is that in today's world, CEOs also want to take their team along. So they want their team to feel empowered. They want their team to feel that they are part of the decision. Therefore, it's important to take them along, even if they're not really important, you think. But the fact is, you have to take them along. Because if he is comfortable, that his team is comfortable with you, that makes your win much more likely in the first place. So one of the things that whether you go first to them or you first to him or
Correct.
whatever, you have to go there eventually
Correct.
to both places. And I think that is one thing that we have to be very clear about.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I think is very important really is to understand that CEOs are different from the rest of the company.
Correct.
They have certain things they care about, certain things they don't care about. Like we had a simulation in the second orbit program where somebody was supposed to sell canteen services. And the guy comes to the chairman of the board to sell canteen services. I mean, you don't sell canteen services to the chairman of the board, right? I mean, the guy is going to send you to the admin guy, he's the guy who makes the decision. So one of the things to be very clear about is that CEO does some things and rest he delegates. What does he do? The CEO focuses on, well, two or three things. One is he is concerned about revenue. He's not concerned about margins really as much as you would think. So if you go there with a cost-based pitch, CEO will say, go talk to my CFO or something, or the operations guy. You have to show the CEO a way by which his business can grow.
That's a very good
And
point.
that is something by which CEOs are different from other people.
They are more on
So
the
they are
top line.
thinking
They
about,
are
they
more on the top line.
based people.
Absolutely right.
We need to focus on that.
Absolutely right.
Second thing that we have found about CEOs is that they're very interested in networking.
Yes. So true.
For instance, Anand Deshpande,
Yeah,
whom
yeah.
we both know, one of the things he always does when he talks to a CEO is he says, you know what, I know all these other CEOs. Would you like to meet them? Who would not want to meet them? Because, actually you are like a butterfly who is going from bee to bee, from flower to flower. And you know all the flowers. He doesn't know.
His Rolodex is better than.
Correct. So, as a service provider, your Rolodex is always better because you are talking to everybody in the industry. And if you can connect them, they're interested in that. Not necessarily for business, but CEOs need to network. That's how they got there and that's how they're going to be successful. So if you give them a way to network, that is a great way to get them on your side. So one is focus on revenue. Second is help them to network or offer to help them to network, including you come to India, I'll connect you with the CEO of this company. Not necessarily that you'll do business, but you get to meet him. And that's what we can offer to the CEO. So other guys will not think like that, but CEOs think like that. So there is a difference.
Very true. I mean, I dwelt on this point with Anand in the podcast. So I said, you know what, during times when the going was not great, companies used to come and ask us discounts. So can you give us more discount on this and all? I told them, I'll give you discount, set me up a meeting with the CEO.
CEO. I'll give him a discount. I'm not giving you.
I'll give him a discount, not you. So I asked him, what was the reason for that? He said, see, you give a discount to anybody, the credit doesn't go to you. It doesn't need to be documented. It has to be recorded. And it's better to record at the highest level, which is the CEO. That is one point. And second point is, when you go to talk to the CEOs, as you said, they are very interested what the other CEOs are doing.
Yeah.
And what is your interaction. So he said, initially, I was like kind of hiding this, whether I should be really telling what other CEOs are doing and all. Then I said, why not, start sharing that. I started sharing that. It became very, very interesting talk. And as you said, they're after top line. They want more business. And the other point was interesting was he said, each CEO has got his own pet project. There are 3-4 projects that are directly managed by them. And if you have anything to do with those projects, then you get a great connect with them, with that person. That would be a great connect.
So you need to figure that out.
You need to figure that out. If these 3-4 projects is something that we can add value or not. That was a huge
Very true.
thing.
And every company is different. Every CEO is different.
Every CEO is absolutely different. So this is I think a very, very interesting point. Another interesting point he made about shifting the perspective, which is like, for example, you are a customer. So instead of taking snooze fit as the customer, I would take Ram as the customer. So my customer is Ram, not snooze fit. So I'll do everything to empower Ram. I'm part of his team. I'll do everything to get him, what he wants, be in his team, empower him, make him achieve, make him successful. The moment I start doing that targeted with these high-level people, these are like generally VPs and CTOs. Again, coming to top-down, he said, our company used to always approach VPs and CTOs. These are the guys are real customer profile. And those are the real customers. So what used to happen when the going was not good and you have these people, they used to take you along to the other company that they went. So obviously, customer acquisition was also easier with this. So that was a very, very interesting take. I thought, instead of thinking as a company as a customer, think as a person as a customer. So that was a very, very interesting take.
Very true.
So yeah, I completely agree. I mean, this is like talking to CEO and CXOs can be different, and the real need for them for each would be different.
Yeah.
And equally, I take your point that when you say top down, it really does not mean you go to the CEO and sell some things. I mean, you go to a reasonably high level just because you want that the right people are addressed in this talk, and you also want to get a feel whether this is something that will pan out, whether you have the money for that, whether get some early views, right? And obviously, when you talk to higher level people, the sales cycle can also be crunched in a way that if there's something has got real value, things can move fast.
Yeah.
Things can move fast. And I also think the other thing, I mean, I want your takes also on that, is that when you go top down, probably when you start with something, obviously when you start with something, you don't know eventually what is going to happen with the deal size and all that. You start with some figure, right? With some idea in mind, you rehearse and you start with some idea in mind. Suddenly the CEO wakes up and says, hey, this can be, great for my other location here and that location here. Suddenly your X is going to become 4X, 5X, 6X. And all at once. So this opportunity you have only in the top down is what I think. I mean, I completely hear you on the bottom up also, because when you playing the other side, when you are a startup and you are starting a product, the most important people when you want to test your MVP is this user community. You have to get them on board. Your product has to be tested. They have to give you feedback, and that feedback coming back to you, making tweaks on the product and going back to them. This iteration has to keep on happening, whether before or after or during, whichever, as you said, at any point you have to meet. You decide whether it's the first level or later. It doesn't matter. But both, I think, a kind of a blended approach sometimes works better and more.
Most importantly, the user has to use it.
The user has to use it. See, all that, yeah, exactly. All that the CEO can say, I mean, this company came to me and showed this.
Yeah.
So equally, the user has to be onboarded first. He may have some other ideas in mind.
Yeah.
And so, you have to have both of them, as you also thought the same. So,
yeah.
Great. So, from that perspective, we all agree that, top down and at times bottom up or middle level, depending on of course, that is the most important point. I mean, you see the culture of the company. The culture of the company is so very important.
Plus, JK, one thing people need to also recognize is that sales is not a individual game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we make it sound as if it's a salesperson and the world revolves around him. Look, we need to view the salesperson as one of the cogs in the wheel, and
Right.
a good sales organization has a team of people supporting the salesperson. So when you talk about working a deal within the organization, you would sometimes notice, depending upon the sales anchor and depending upon his experience and his level within the organization, he will only be able to network with a certain level at his counterpart. But a good organization will support him with multiple other people.
Correct.
Right? So if, for example, the organization is highly technical, then the salesperson will be always augmented with extremely sharp, articulate solution architects or solution experts
That's right.
who can relate to a different set of people. If the organization has a hierarchical approach where going up is important, whereas this guy is not going to be able to go and get a meeting with maybe 2 levels up. Look, you can't tell that you're going to go and sell upward, but this guy will never get that meeting. Even if he wishes, he may not get that meeting.
Yep.
So he needs to be augmented by 2 levels above him within the organization to basically go and facilitate that meeting. So the sales guy is a facilitator.
Correct.
He needs to recognize where his role is, where his role stops.
Correct.
And be able to draw on resources from the organization to fill in the gaps.
That is true. That is true.
So a good organization has multiple roles, multiple capabilities, all augmenting the salesperson, and the salesperson is more like an orchestra conductor. He's not the musician.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we view the sales guy as an all and behold kind of a guy. He's got to sing, he's got to play the orchestra, he's got to write the script, he's got to basically edit the music.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
He's the conductor. Whereas he's got to be able to orchestrate this.
I think so. That's a very well put. I mean, he needs to play that role of having the overall ownership, but equally not that he does everything. He gets the right
person. So whose responsibility it is? It is the organization's responsibility to set that culture. There are many organizations where they believe that you as a sales guy, I've hired you. It is your job to basically go and get this business come what may.
Correct.
And those organizations are also successful.
Yeah.
But what are you then creating? You're creating basically nuggets of experts who are extremely good salespeople who will basically get you to where they want. But what happens? You're highly dependent upon them.
Dependent on that.
So tomorrow if they leave, what happens? Your business is basically going to be
Correct.
jeopardized because of that.
Absolutely.
Whereas the other set of organizations who believe that it is a group of people who are going to enable the sale, they're decentralizing the whole process and de-risking the sales process. So you have multiple touch points within the organization, and if for some reason one guy is underperforming or one guy is, leaves and go, it doesn't jeopardize your engine.
Very well said.
So there are organizations who view sales as an individual process, and there are organizations who view sales as an engine.
Yeah. It also, I think, depends on the size of the organization. A lean organization
No, I don't agree with that.
with just a couple of salespeople.
I don't agree with it.
Okay.
Look, it's a culture. It is what kind of an engine do you want? Both of them are successful.
For example, let's say a startup just started, is got only one sales guy out there. I mean, call him manager, call him whatever. They can't afford to have 2 salespeople. It's just that one guy who's there. And his main role is having a team behind him who doesn't have any, kind of salesy approach. He's the only guy. I get what you're saying, but in that kind of a scenario.
Like a startup, it starts with this founder, it ends with the founder.
Correct.
So the ecosystem of the company is the founder, and he sells based upon his vision, his dream, and the quantum of people he's going to be selling is to people that he knows.
Correct.
He's not hunting somebody fresh. He's not trying to find a needle in a haystack.
I'm just looking at a step
These
later.
are two different things. What we are trying to talk in the sales algorithm playbook is about scaling. It's a different thing to basically build version 1 and get anchor customers or early customers.
Yes.
It's a very different ball game to basically get the hockey stick in scaling.
Correct,
I think these are very different
Correct.
sales journeys.
Absolutely.
I think we're all trying to talk about the second step, which is about scaling out an organization. How do mid-management, how do
Correct.
organizations build a sales engine? The algorithm is a framework for people to view or scale.
Correct.
In that context, you have 2 ways of scaling. You can scale by hiring the best salespeople in the world, putting them on the field, empowering them. They will work, they may not work. It's a single trick pony game. Or you can think of it like a team where you are basically getting multiple people to play multiple roles, different.
That's true. I mean, that works much better in the longer run. I mean, it's a culture. It's a culture. Basically,
it's a cultural thing. It's nothing to do with what works or not.
It's a cultural thing. I think it's more culture rather than working or not.
Yeah.
Because as an organization, you are kind of making sure that that particular person who's in the field is backed up with all that you need to help him do the sale or complete the sale.
I've seen the latter work better because when you're selling, the buyer also has hierarchies. Remember that?
Yeah.
your culture is your culture. That doesn't mean everybody is going to adhere to your culture. The buyer has hierarchies, buyer has user communities, they have, IT community, they have decision makers, compliance, they have finance, procurement. And if they don't see a similar kind of, structure within the selling organization, sometimes they feel that are you the only guy in the organization? And if you basically leave, am I basically jeopardizing my business, with you?
Yeah,
Am I
that's a
buying?
very
Am I
valid
buying
point.
from the organization or am I buying from you?
That's a very valid point. That's where you show the culture that it's the organization behind it, not the person.
The person.
Correct.
That's very
a
true.
very valid point. Very, very good. Any add-on on that?
No, I think that's very true. And I think the best salespeople are those who can tell the customer, you want to meet my CFO, I'll get him tomorrow.
Correct. Absolutely.
And it builds confidence in the guy too, that I can actually get my CFO to come meet your CFO, which
That's right.
can be
That's
done.
right. That's right.
And typically your CFO may not even be ready, but you got to tell him that tomorrow you got to go meet the counterparty CFO.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They are happy to do it, but you have to make them do it.
Make them do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because salespeople also, this is a very valid point. Salespeople also have this kind of an insecurity. The moment I bring some higher up into the game,
I'm out of it.
I'm out of it, or is it that? So this insecurity is very high, and where this insecurity doesn't exist is these kind of organizations which have this culture.
No, I beg to differ. The insecurity does not come from bringing a second person. The insecurity comes from you. From that guy saying something which was not supposed to be said and not well rehearsed.
You mean the sales guy?
CFO.
Yeah.
On the CFO.
The CFO saying something or somebody.
He's a salesman and not
Oh,
coached
that's the
him.
insecurity.
Insecurity comes from that because the salesperson knows such a lot about this deal and that knowledge has not been communicated.
That is the insecurity. Okay.
Insecurity comes from I have heard a lot from this customer. I have also made some promises in parallel. Now those promises are between me and the buyer.
Right.
Yeah.
The moment the CFO comes
Very
and
good
says,
point. Yeah.
okay, what is the margin on this deal? 15%. I never said that. I can't approve that because now you're putting him in a spot. So deal will fall apart because now the CFO is supposed
That is
to
the
be
insecurity. Yes.
Insecurity comes from, the person that you're bringing, one is not up to speed in terms of all the stuff that you have promised. And
Probably you need to do a kind of a knowledge transfer before you bring him in.
Absolutely. You need to rehearse.
it's a culture. If you're building an engine, this is automatically built into it.
Yeah.
But if you're building a culture where the sales guy it starts and ends with him, then it's a different ballgame.
No, correct. That's absolutely right. Sometimes what happens when you go to customers say, I want to see your CTO.
Yeah.
This is a technical thing, this is an implementation thing. I want to see your CTO. So after a huge discussion lineup of months, at the end he says, no, everything is fine, price is fine, everything's fine, but I want to see whether the CTO is up to it or not, and he's got a team. I want to interview him, kind of. So that is a time when the sales guy has to really be, smart enough to apprise him of everything that has happened with this customer so far and be, willing to take in whatever it takes. The customer will, if it is a big customer, you can imagine what kind of talk can happen there. So this is where I'm saying, having a meeting before, a knowledge transfer before, this is what I did. Because ideally, salespeople may not have much to do with CTOs. I mean, they will not keep them abreast of everything that is happening. But in a situation when they are called, these kind of surprises should not happen and this insecurity should not happen. So a sales guy can tell you, okay, no, he's going to ask you this. Be ready with an answer. I have told him this. Right. He's going to ask, what is your team size? I have told him 50. You don't tell him 5. So this is what I'm saying. A kind of a knowledge transfer before. Yeah, wonderful. I mean, I think just to summarize, it's not per se every time that you do top down. My whole premise on the top down was to bring a structure to the sales guy also, in a way that all these stagnated middle managers, why are they stagnating? Because they go to the same person in the customer organization at all times, selling same story, same thing. Do you have a need? It's like a reactive sales, I would say. When you want to make it more proactive, you slightly go higher up in the organization and you see the amount of preparation you will need to go and be able to handle him. And that preparation is your structure. That is what will make you as a very strong salesperson. So this is what I wanted to bring in that book. Great. Next important topic, maybe your favorite, Ashok, customer relations and account management. So how important is it?
So again, we are now talking about something slightly different from sales, straightforward sales. Account management is something where you have to develop an existing customer and get more business from an existing customer. This is very important because typically any good company, once it has started out, it will have some good customers. And usually they do not get as much out of those small set of customers as they could. Partly because they lack confidence, partly because they don't really know what the customer is up to, all those things. So here's where account management comes in. I was working or advising a company in Mumbai who was doing some work with banks. So I said, okay, tell me who are all your customers. He gave me the list. Every bank in India is his customer. And he was going to hire more salespeople. I said, what do you need more salespeople for? You already got every bank. What you need is account managers who can go to the bank you already have and get more business from those guys. You already know them. Why do you need to sell to them? What you need to do is when the guy has a problem and he looks up, he should see your face.
Absolutely.
That is account management.
Absolutely right.
And relationship management becomes very important there. Whereas when you're doing a sale for the first time, you don't have any relationship anyway. So what relationship are you going to manage? Relationship management is very important in the context of account management. And account management is a different ball game. In fact, the kind of people who are good at account management are different than the kind of people who are good at sales.
Correct.
It's sort of like they say, a wartime leader is different than a peacetime leader. Account management is a peacetime leader. Sales guys are wartime leaders. So you have to essentially figure out who is good for this. And it's a very difficult question. I don't know the answer offhand for every company what is the best, but you have to find guys who are capable of being patient, of understanding the customer and nurturing the relationship to the point where they get whatever is happening in the customer's world,
Absolutely.
they come to you first.
Absolutely. That's the right thing here. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said.
So it's different than sales. In fact, you can't be selling all the time. You're there to talk to the customer and understand what his issues are and talk to him about all that. You can't be selling all the time. Customer doesn't want to be sold to every minute of the day. But he doesn't mind talking to you about his problems. If he thinks you can help him. So that is account management. So account management is different from sales in that sense. And the kind of people are also different. And the whole process of account management is different than the process of sales. And I think that is something that really we need to understand.
See, many companies that I have come across, they have this dilemma when they create the sales team.
Yeah.
Should it be verticalized around the product or should be account management that you give your team? So there are three ways. One is there's geographies, divide them amongst geographies. One. Second is you have 10 products. So you have a product head and they say you handle all the geographies for this product, you for this product. And finally, one methodology is account management where you say, okay, I distribute key accounts to various salespeople. My experience has always been what I completely corroborate with what you say is key account management is work wonders. For one, that for the sales guys, all said and done, you have to be in the right place, right time. Many times it happens that some things don't go under your notice because you have not been with the customer. But with this concept of account management, you obviously, you are with the customer reaches out to you even if you don't reach out to him. The customer reaches out to you and tells you there's an opportunity. That's an ideal thing. That is when you take the relationship to that particular level, that level. You also asked me in a informal talk that we were having, why will senior manager or a senior executive or a top executive in a company share his goals with you?
Right.
I think that is a nurturing process, sir. I mean, it should come at a particular time when that executive has started looking at you as an advisor or looking up to you as kind of a trusted advisor, I would say. Like, if there's some problem, I'll go to him kind of. That is the level you have to reach, I think, when it is not any transactional, it's not sales, it's not transactional. It is basically that he's reaching out because he needs advice, and there he's opening up opportunities for you. I mean, what best can you have? This is a great. So, I very strongly believe, and I put it in my book also, that one of the basic foundation for building a relationship is through account management. And that, for example, if you have a big company, it's not easy to get to know all the department, what their needs are, but you have to do that kind of mapping. If you are account manager, you have to do all that mapping. And believe me, in sales, depending on medium size or smaller size companies, they won't differentiate between hunter sales and farmer sales. They'll say everything comes under your purview for this region, for this target. You get it from a same customer or get it from different customers. It doesn't matter. Maybe it matters to have more new customers, so there's a separate target for that you get more hunting. But equally, if there's a good potential account that you have where you can get more repeat business, so why not?
I think, JK, I think that's where I've seen some companies fail. Look, it is one thing for somebody to basically say, you have this quota, I don't really care whether you get it from hunting or farming. I think that is a very naive kind of a sales leader who does not understand that these are two different functions. I think that's what Ashok is also trying to say. I explain this in a slightly different way. I call it physics and chemistry. Look, hunting is more physics. It's about, are you able to keep pace? Are you able to sell, or are you able to basically keep up with the pace of the customer in terms of his buying cycle, his buying mentality, etc., etc. It's all physics. Going to be aligned there. But it's a transaction. You finish that and you probably go and hunt somewhere else. Account management is more chemistry. It's basically like marriage. You are now married, and successful marriages are when the chemistry matches. And not necessarily that the sales guy who's tuned to basically operating in hunting mode is the guy who's going to have the right chemistry with the customer. I'll tell you why. Because a salesperson has got a particular trait, whereas an organization has got multiple traits. And at Persistent, we used to have these nomenclatures of dolphins, cheetahs, lions, tigers, elephants. So we used to characterize organizations in these 5 formats. We used to characterize departments also in that 5. So what are we trying to say out here? An elephant is a mammoth organization who's very process driven, goes very slowly, but moves in a herd.
You mean the customer type?
Customer types. Right? So these are extremely process-driven companies, extremely slow, but
you find them, they're huge. Yeah, you find them. They may be one of the Fortune 500 also, for example.
Doesn't matter. They could be anything. And then you flip it around and you basically go to a lion kind of a company. The lion kind of a company is not the hunter. He basically waits for the lioness to bring the meat. But the lion is the guy who feasts. But what is the job of the lion? He basically protects his pride.
Correct.
So he's got a different role. Cheetahs are different. Dolphins are very different. They're very agile and basically, moving very fast. Now, you as a sales guy, you're sold into one of these organizations, but the account manager has to deal with different personas. That is where he was trying to say, how do you determine who's the right candidate for account management becomes the biggest challenge, because you have to first get the pulse of the organization, identify, is it a dolphin or is it a cheetah or is it a...
That is true. But all I'm saying is, there are organizations that sell which think account management is part of the sales guy's job. I mean,
I'm trying to say it's naive. How many successful companies are there who basically have built a sales team by not differentiating between account management and account farming or hunting? I can't name one. It may be luck. It may be a very small company for whom accounts are also very small.
And given the pace at which account management moves in terms of getting repeat orders or more orders, it may be very slow to go on that. That's also what you're saying. Right?
Repeat orders can be also fast. It doesn't have to be slow. The point is, in hunting, you're basically like a honeybee going from one flower to the other.
Absolutely.
You're pollinating multiple honeybees of multiple flowers. You don't know which one is going to be successful. But in farming, you're dedicated to an account. So what is the rule of thumb? That's another thing which...
So according to you, account management is not at all a sales role, or?
That's what even...
It's a different role.
It's about...
Sales is part of it, but it's a different role.
You're doing a lot of different things out there. You're in the account day in and day out. You are trying to basically map the organization, walk the corridor, say hello to somebody. You're trying to get insights in terms of, what are the other projects which are going on.
There's no defined cycle here.
At some point, you may be diffusing an escalation. A project may have gone
Absolutely.
south. You are the guy out there. You are in the front line.
Absolutely.
You can't then go back and say, boss, it's not my job. I've come here to sell. I'm not come here to diffuse a fire.
No, that's one of the biggest part. I mean, for example, I also mentioned in this book, if you look to a customer to champion your cause for a sale, equally be your champion. He is champion for within your company also. I mean, any problem that he has, you have to be you are the person he looks at, right? The front end, the real person who comes to him is the sales guy. So whether it is something, or an account manager, for example, whether it is something to do with you or not, you still have to lead him to the organization and take him to the right person, right? So that's very true.
Very different role, man.
In fact, I would go so far as to say, and we've said it in our account management programs, is that the account manager has to be more loyal to his customer than to his own company.
Absolutely true.
So he has to represent his customer to his own company.
So much correct. Absolutely.
This is what you said. And I think that is the kind of trait that the account manager has to have. He may get into trouble for it, but he has to do it because that's his job.
Correct. And that will build the
That
trust.
will build the
That
trust.
will build the trust.
Because this is
with
my
the-
guy.
Yeah,
Or the
yeah,
customer
absolutely.
should feel that this is
Absolutely,
my guy.
absolutely. I
And
agree.
this is my company. They'll do what's good for me,
Agree.
which is what it's all about.
Correct.
The other thing I wanted to say about account management, which hasn't come up here, but it comes up a lot in my consulting, small companies, typically what happens is they're very dependent on one or two customers. Most of their revenue will come from one
Correct.
guy.
80-20 rule, for example.
Rule happens. And they're all nervous about it because they say, what will happen if this goes?
If this customer goes, yeah.
And I always tell them, in my experience, I've never seen a company become big without having this. So it's good that you have it. Nurture it, learn, grow from that. Don't think it's a bad thing, but you have to have good account management to do that. If you do that, it is good for you, it is good for them, it is good for everybody. Don't be afraid of this. Don't be afraid to have 80% of your revenue come from one customer. It's fine. When you're small. When you're big, no, it's not fine. But when you're small and you're like 10 crore business, then if 8 crores come from one customer, it's fine.
That's not lead to any insecurity for you.
You don't feel insecure. In fact, try to make that 8 crores to 40. But important thing is don't feel bad about it. And that I think can only come if you
make it even better is what you're saying.
Even better, but give enough importance to growing that account. Because most people don't do that. They feel bad about it. They feel nervous. They say, I have to de-risk. What is de-risk? Business is risk only. There is no de-risk. You have to actually do this.
So, sorry, coming back to your point on sales, as you have explained, what does a salesperson take on customer relationships? So, this kind of a salesperson who is moving from one customer to the other, just selling, and kind of just finishes his job and goes to the next customer. So, how is he developing a relation with the customer? Is he developing a relation, or that's not his?
No, he is developing a relation at a very different level, at a different pace. Okay? So, if you're selling into large organizations, the hunter or the guy who's opened up the account typically visits the account maybe once a quarter, once a month, etc., depending upon the size and the type of engagement that you've got going there.
Right.
The person who's there every day is going to be the account manager who's basically doing the heavy lifting on the day-to-day perspective. So these are two different roles. That's what I'm going to say. The expectation of the hunter is that we want you to open up more doors. So don't try to build a just relationship with one. We want you to move.
Okay, so basically even the role of the relationship falls squarely on the account manager.
But I think also the sales guy, when he's trying to sell something, he has to develop a relationship. Otherwise, how can he sell? And that is what he's saying. It's at a different level. Because I'll tell you frankly, one of my clients, big client, we made the mistake of saying that a sales guy will be asked to sell one thing, say data, only to banks. So he's supposed to go to banks and sell data. He does that, but we were never successful with that. Because nobody in the market is sitting there waiting to buy data from you. He's sitting there with some problem
Yeah, that's
which
good.
you have to solve.
That's the point.
The sales guy has to understand that problem, which he can't do unless he's a relationship guy. So it's a little bit of
It's a
both.
mix. Yeah, I mean,
You
of
have
course,
to
there are
understand
two
his
distinct roles.
Right.
That's very clear.
But you have to understand
Selling
his
and account
problem.
management.
You
Yeah.
can't just sell him whatever you have.
Correct. No, yeah, that's. I always say, if you don't solve a problem, then there is no sale. There's no
There is
pitch.
no correct.
So the customer out there is not sitting there to listen to what you have. You may get that one chance for visibility, but after that, the next meeting you won't get. Unless you go there and say, I'm solving this problem for you, he won't even listen to you.
And you have to start there, because even if he wants to buy data from you eventually, he doesn't necessarily know that.
That is the point.
He only knows what his problem
That's
is.
a very good point.
You have to tell him that what
That's
you
a
need
very
is
good
this.
point.
He doesn't
Sometimes the
know.
need is not created, or the customer is not aware of the
Aware
need.
of
So
the
you
need.
have to create the need. So that's a very valid point. Fantastic. So yeah, I mean, we talked about sales, we talked about relationships, we talked about how the relationship maintained by the sales guy with the customer is a little different than the account manager. And of course, the account manager and sales guys work as a team, wherein the account manager also feeds the sales guys whatever information he has or whatever he has with the customer. But overall, I think these are distinct roles where the sales is precisely only hunting and the account manager is basically mapping a big organization and trying to see where the problems can be solved. And he's kind of, in a way, I must say, a customer success manager or whatever, if we can call him that way, that he, is dedicated to that kind of work, and it is a real different kind of a role altogether. Great. Now, moving on a little bit on, you touched the topic earlier on traits. This is one topic I want to touch today as to, tell me, founder traits or salesman traits. I'm treating it both the same, because finally it's about having a company and reaching out to customers or being an actual sales guy. The traits are more or less similar, but founder traits may be a little more than sales. So let's look at founder traits. So I, for one, think that every founder doesn't have innate traits, like he's born with certain traits. Experience teaches a lot. You go through certain things, there are certain learnings. All that we say about failures and overcoming them, it will not be very easy. I mean, every founder I've talked to and I've asked, how were your failures? Every time it has been bad. Every time it has hit me when there was a failure. But the feeling that I'm not going to give up and I'm going to be persistent on that and I'm going to come out, that is only a few can do. I mean, I've also talked to founders of the 90s like Anand Deshpande and founders of recent years. The mindset is completely different. The challenges were different then, the challenges are different today. But summing up, traits, I think, is a very, very important topic, which I want to open up here again as to what do you think. Let's fix on founders or startup. You have been working with founders. You are a founder yourself. You've been working with a lot of founders, early stage founders who want to scale. Where do you think the problem comes? For example, now let's look at the second orbit thing that you're doing. You're talking to founders who know that they have a company that is not going to die. They have got some business, they have got some network, but they are maxed out. They are completely maxed out. They have done whatever it takes for a startup to do in the early stage. They've done everything. And now what is next? So what kind of, there, even Anand said the same thing. There, the transformation really required is from the founder.
Yes.
The founder has
His
to transform.
mindset has to change.
Yeah, his mindset has to change. So, what has been your experience? How did you when you get these founders on board?
See, frankly, as you rightly said, initially in what we call the first orbit, the founder is the salesman.
Correct.
Because he is the guy who's selling. He is the guy who wants to get business, he has to sell. But when you want to scale and you want to become 10 times bigger, he can't be doing the sale all the time. That's when you have to build a sales engine, which is something that they find hard to accept because they already know everything. They've already done it. The whole engine is inside them.
Right.
But for them to realize that they got to build an engine and then hand it over to someone else is very hard for them to do. And that transition is a mindset change that needs to happen. So you have to hire the right salespeople, you have to trust them, you have to make sure that they follow how your thought about how your vision has been, at the same time without micromanaging them. And that is the hard part. So that is what they have to do. And that is where this whole business about playbooks and building a sales engine, all these things are important for scaling. When you're doing the first orbit, you may not need it. Second orbit, you need it.
So as Anand said, moving from my company to our company is a real transition, because it's no longer now founder dreams or founder visions or founder mission. It's more company vision. You yourself have to align to the company's vision. So you may have your own things, but again, company comes first. So the center of universe moves from the founder to the company. So this is a transformation that I think is very, very critical. What would you like to add with your
I
experience?
think there's nothing more to add on. I think it's spot on.
And I think, again, coming back to the CEO as salesman, there are good things about that also. Because, I mean, I was just reading Harsh Mariwala's book, Harsh Realities. Very, very fascinating. Where he talks about situations where he went up against a Unilever sales guy, for instance. Unilever sales guy is a sales guy. He is not Harsh Mariwala. Right? So Harsh's capabilities are so greater than the sales guy that he can't compete with.
Correct.
The CEO has capabilities that a sales guy doesn't have. The other guy, sales guy, doesn't have, because this guy is, he's like operating at a different orbit than the sales guy. His ability to make decisions, his ability to make an offer across the table is far greater than a salesman of a large company. So having the CEO salesman has advantages, but you can't scale that way.
Yes,
And that is really what it's about.
Can't scale it. That's the right thing.
Yeah.
That's true. So even talking about failures and setbacks and having the resilience to come back or having the persistence, I have some interesting example to quote. I was interviewing a founder called Sunil Jalihal. Probably you know.
I saw
him.
that. I saw that podcast.
So Indic Inspiration. So it's about all Indianness, how he creates Shunya and how he makes a copper model out of that, and he aligns with the arts and crafts of the country, with the craftsmen. So it's a very, very unique thing, kind of a social startup. I think Anand Deshpande's family is invested in that. So he made a very interesting point. I mean, his early journey was nothing to do with social startups. He was into telecom in a big way, and he was one of the first to start kind of a part of a telecom startup. And then from there, he moved on to mobile wallets. Mobile wallets in 2014. He said, we're doing pretty well, but the only problem was the timing of the idea was a little before time, too early. Too early. There were only as much as 1 lakh smart mobiles in the country. But so here the question is, should we say he gave up? He gave up on that idea. But soon to realize in 2017, this picked up, and Paytm and all the others, got such big companies. And had he been, so I asked him, had you been persistent, you would have been kind of, a $1 billion company. So do you have regrets? So he said, no regrets on that. But, we can never say what went wrong, whether the timing was wrong or what we did was wrong, but we gave up. So again, coming back to the same point of being persistent and giving up. So, you have to take a call as a founder at some point. You are not sure of the future. So this is one example I say, although you don't give up, in a way you gave up that, but you started something else, right? So, and another founder that I was talking to, Sandeep Chintawar, he made it big in the 90s in Silicon Valley, started a company there. He said, JK, the first company I started building a product on case tracking. Said, I didn't get any traction on case tracking then, either from customers, nor from my team. I just shelved that idea and started on web analytics, and that went very well. I got an award-winning product, got a acquisition, and then he built on, and now he's an investor. But again, the same thing. JK, today it's a $1 billion industry. Case tracking is a $1 billion industry across all verticals. So again, this is something that is a point to ponder whether he gave up in the wrong time, or it was too early for this, or so this is also one thing that keeps in my mind, whether persistence to what extent, how long can you keep the idea, how long can you get going, Anything you guys want to add on that?
As Keynes used to say, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent.
That's the right point. That's the right point. So it's a test of time.
And you can't win
You
because
can't win.
you have a limited wallet,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, how
Absolutely.
long can you survive?
Absolutely. That's very true. That's very true. So that finally governs your decisions.
So there's a
and
reality.
that's reality. Yeah.
Luck is real.
Luck is real. Yeah. Absolutely.
You
You also
can't,
said the same thing. You can't really
You can't go away.
go
from
against it.
it.
Go
Luck
away
is
from it.
there. It happens. And at an individual level, at a company level, luck is out there and you got to know how to use it when it comes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think we had some very good, interesting talks in the last hour, and thank you for your valuable insights, Ram and Ashok. It really opened up a lot of points to discuss, and also along the lines of the book. So, thank you very much.
Good.
And any parting statements or anything on the that you would want to add?
No, I think the only thing I want to say, and which I say to all my students as well, that sales is much more important than you think it is. It is the most important thing in a company.
Correct.
When you are trying to grow, because without sales, you got nothing.
Correct.
So you have to get that right. Sales is the sales guy, a good sales guy is worth his weight in gold, diamonds, whatever you want to do, because he is the one who's
And
going
if
to
it is a
bring
guy like me, then it's too expensive.
up. But you have to do that, because without a good sales team or a good sales engine, you are nothing. So sales is much more important than you think it is. So that is something people don't understand. They think, oh, I'll start my business, then I'll see about sales later.
That's
Doesn't
the
work
whole
that way.
That's the whole premise for my book.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
for my
I
startup
agree.
founders,
Yeah.
the whole premise is there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything you want to add?
I think we've already spoken quite a bit. I'll just summarize, 2 points which I firmly believe in, and I want, is one is visualize. I don't think people spend enough time in visualizing every single pursuit. I think that's number one. And number two is that the salesperson should not feel this at the burden of selling resides on him. A good person draws upon the capability of the organization and carries people along, takes people along.
That's a good point.
To
Yeah.
make the sale happen.
That's right. Yeah.
If you start believing that the world is resting on your shoulders, the weight is
That
too
will-
much, you are going to
correct.
crumble very soon.
Correct.
But if you have the mindset of knowing whom to pull up when
That's right.
and orchestrate the whole sales cycle, you will find the sales journey to be a lot more interesting, and you start seeing a lot more success. And more importantly is that when you're taking the people along in the early part of sales cycle, you've already carried your organization along. So when the sales happen, there is no reluctance or resistance within the organization to
Absolutely.
deliver to that project, because everybody is part and parcel of the sales process. But if you're done it like in a black box and you come and say, okay, now deliver this, and people are going to ask you questions as to, I can't do this, what have you gone and sold, this is not our capability, oh my god, the margins are going to get impacted, or get approval from somebody else.
That's true. And see, here one more trait has come up. That is leadership. I think a sales guy has to develop this leadership. I mean, I think it's very, very important at whatever level you are. You need to lead, you need to, as you said rightly, you must need to know who to tap.
Look, when you talk about leadership, we one topic which we did not cover here today, we always talked about the salesperson as an individual. But in many organizations, the salesperson is a sales leader of multiple salespeople. We never talked about that.
Correct. Correct.
Look, a good sales manager is able to sell to his sales team. And what is a good sales manager? If he's able to visualize how you can make your numbers. In fact, one of my early managers in my Seagate day was a guy called Brian Dexheimer. And he's a very interesting character, right? So he comes down to Minneapolis one day and says, but we're going to double our revenues next year. And this was at the time, this was in 90, this was in 98, 99, 2000 time frame. And if you know the storage industry in that time, everybody in the motherhood was in the industry. You had IBM, Fujitsu, Hitachi, Samsung, you had Seagate, Western Digital, you had quantum computing. It was like a fish market. The number of people selling disk drives to computer companies, right?
Correct. Correct.
In that industry, everybody's market share was like, negligible.
Correct.
And now this guy comes back and says, you know what, we are going to double our revenue next year. People had a heart attack. The line manager say, what the hell are you smoking? Give me some of it, man. Because they just couldn't fathom. And then this guy, Brian, actually went down and said, I have met Dell, I have met EMC, I have met NetApps, I have met Amazon, and they have shared their roadmap with me. And they are moving to the cloud. And the cloud computing requires a completely different storage architecture. And we have that architecture. And they have promised me, saying that if you're able to deliver, this is the volume that you're going to be getting. So before he laid down the numbers for every single sales guy, he had done his homework.
Correct.
So he's not trying to push a pipe down people's throat. He was able to visualize how Ram and how Rengan and how Ashok is going to meet their numbers. So he had gone down to that level. And all that he told those people, Ram, just show up at EMC's office every day, the deal is yours. Ashok, next as an account manager for Dell, you are there. 80% of your numbers will be met. And guess where the remaining 20% will come? When Western Digital falters. If you are there, that order will come to you because you are there at that point.
Correct.
We have not talked about the trait of a sales manager. Sales leadership is so important. It is because if you are able to give that clarity to your sales team as to how they can win their deals, that will make a good organization.
And that the team will remain intact. I mean, when they see such a leader who's doing that for them.
Planning, visualization, having the pulse of the customers, knowing what's happening in the industry, you
Very
as a
important.
leader is so important
Very,
in
very
giving that
important.
confidence to your people, you know.
Very nicely said, Ram. It's a good sum up. I think this is very, very important from a sales perspective. I completely agree on that.
Great.
Okay.
Enjoyed it.
Pleasure being with all of you.
Thank you, audience, for being in tune, and stay tuned as we have more experts and more founders and entrepreneurs as we go our way. Stay connected with me. You can look me up on LinkedIn. I go by the name Rengan Jayakrishnan. And if you have any questions, you can email me at jrengan@gmail.com. Thank you.